Wow, boy, they get cold quick. Winter is coming, but that's okay. We've got a warm shop and we have horses to build. Let's get started. Welcome back to the shop. In the last couple of episodes, we were working on bow rockers and we started putting together a glider or safety stand for the horses that I have on order for Christmas this year. And I'm going to stop on that. And now we're going to start switching gears and we're going to start building bodies. Again, I want to start working on putting together enough. And yes, I am thinking about the show season for 2023. So I want to start working ahead and possibly have a lot more inventory for the show at the end of next summer than what we've had the last couple of years. So just like I did over the summer, I took inventory and I was going through everything and I pulled down what I have, and that's what I did over the summer. I had different bodies and different stages, and I just wanted to see what all I have. So I did it again, and I'll take you over. I've got a couple of bodies pulled down, and I also pulled down the legs that we cut out over the summer. Now these were the legs that were cut, or I planed down way too thin, and so we scabbed on some material to build up the thickness. So I have these. These are for medium horses, so I've got a set of legs for the glider, and I've got a set of legs for a bow rocker. Then I went up in the rack and I pulled down a nice big chunk of basswood here. It's got a big knot right in the middle, but we should be able to cut that out of there. And with my template here, I was kind of looking to lay out, and it looks like I can get 3 medium body blocks out of this. So that's one of the first areas we're going to start. I'm going to cut this out and we'll take it over to the planer and start planing that material. Now again, I want to start with the bottom body blocks. That's usually when I start building horses, that's where I start, because I'm going to go over to the bandsaw and I'm going to take the blade out and I'm going to put on a 3/4 inch wide resaw blade. And the resaw blade will cut the leg areas out on these bottom body blocks really, really nice. It makes a really nice, clean, straight cut. So once I set that up, then I'm going to try to cut as many bottom body blocks out as I can. I also went through some of my scrap bins and some of the piles over here against the wall, and I pulled out 2 pieces here, and these are perfect for small bottom body blocks. So it looks like we can get 3 out of there. Let's go ahead and let's throw this big piece up on the chop saw. Let's get it cut the length, and let's start getting our bottom body blocks cut out, and then we can start gluing the legs on. Now, while I'm over here, I wanted to show you all, again, this is what I have so far. So this one is sold and that one is sold. This is a bow rocker, a medium on bows. This one's going to be a medium on the safety stand back here. And at the show, I started, working on a head. So I've got a head that is partially roughed in here, so it wouldn't take too long to get this one finished up. So that will go on one of these horses. And I believe I have the top body blocks already cut too. If not, it won't take long to cut out and plane down material for the top body blocks. So these ones are well underway. And again, we have our medium safety stand. We're going to paint that a hunter green, a dark green. And I've got our post material glued up over here. So we can work on that maybe next week too. So that's where I'm at right now. Let me go ahead, we'll throw this up on the planer. Let's get this material planed for our bottom body blocks, and then we'll head over to the bandsaw and get that all set up. Okay, that material's all planed down. Now this started out at around 3 1/4 inches thick. We needed to get it down to 2 3/4 inches thick. So we've got this material planed down. I'm going to work on planing these two pieces down for our small bottom body blocks, and then we can take everything to the joiner, join it, run it through the table saw, cut it to our, to our width, and then we can set up our bandsaw. I know this isn't very exciting, but this is what I've got going on right now in the shop. So again, don't mind, thinking of it as a refresher course, or again, some of you that are new to the channel, this is again how I start making these rocking horses. So, it's kind of an interesting process. So just follow along and I'll show you how to do it. I've got my stock all planed, and I've got one edge that I ran over the joiner. Now I'm ready to go ahead and cut it to the width. Now these are again for the medium size horses. These are the bottom body blocks. So the plans call for 8 3/4 inches wide. I've gone ahead, I've got my fence set at 8 3/4, so all I need to do is run it through. We'll do that, take it over to the bench, and then we can get our template out and mark our template, and then over to the bandsaw. Now these are for the small horses, so I've got a couple of pieces here I'm going to run through. These are going to be run through at 5 3/4 inches wide. Okay, grab our patterns here. We'll lay out our 3 bottom body blocks. So whether or not you're making a medium horse on a bow rocker or on the safety stand, the pattern stays the same. At least this pattern stays the same. What makes it different is the end pieces. There's different degrees on that, and I'll show you that again. I'll go over that with you, but that's what makes the difference. It's how the legs are attached to this bottom body block. On a bow rocker, they're a little bit wider than on the safety stand, but again, I'll show you all of that. So there's one. We'll set that aside, and this I believe we can get 2 out of. Okay, and then for our smalls, there we go. Okay, it's time we can go ahead and set up our bandsaw with our 3/4 inch resaw blade. It's not that difficult to set up. Takes a few minutes to get everything adjusted and get it set properly. That's why when I do get this set up, that's why I'd like to make you know, as many as I can. So we're going to do 3 mediums and we'll do 3 smalls. So that'll keep us busy for a while. Okay, just a few more little adjustments and we've got it all set up. That takes about 15 minutes or so to get this all properly set up. So it does take a little bit of messing around to get it right. And again, that's why when I put this resaw blade on, that I just as soon try to cut as many out as I can, because I don't want to have to set this up, you know, all the time. So that looks good. I think we're set. Our first cut, I talked about the ends. And so on the glider, we're going to go 8 degrees on our back. That's going to be our first cut. And on the front, we want to set this at 5 degrees. So we'll get that set up. I'm going to do two gliders, and we'll do the third one. We'll make a bow rocker. And the bows are 7.5 at the front, and we're going to set the back at 15 degrees. So we'll do that here. With the bandsaw set up, we're about ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and mark my ends with the correct degree. Again, I'm going to go with, we're going to make the first 2, we're going to make those into safety stands or gliders, and then the third one, we'll make that a bow rocker. It's pretty easy to tell which is the front. The front part is tapered out where the back is just straight. So our front glider, all we have to do is just mark it with our template, front and back. We've got these all laid out and marked. The other thing I failed to mention, I do like to mark my pattern on both sides. And the reason I do that is because I have a 14-inch deep bandsaw. And so when you go to cut these end pieces right here, and you go to cut these blocks out, it won't fit. So you have to flip this over. And if you put your template, you mark on the back side too, then you have, you know, your marks there, so it makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker. So with that marked, I'm gonna go ahead and let's cut the rocker out since we only have one of those, so I'll get that. We'll do the backs first, it's 15 degrees, and then we'll do the front, that's 7.5. So we just need to set this up. And of course my bandsaw does have a gauge on the bottom side, but I just like using my template. They're pretty accurate. I make sure that they are pretty accurate. So we can just use that as our guide. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky for the rockers. This is a Delta bandsaw 14-inch, and it can tip this way to the right, I think to 45 degrees. To the left, though, you're limited because you're hitting the frame of the machine and the cover. So what I've come up with to do this is I've made a little bit of a shim here, and I just keep this hung up with my patterns, and I put a wedge here at the end. I think you can see this on this top camera here. So I just glued a wedge on so that I can put it in where my miter gauge slot goes and push it in, and then it'll secure with that wedge there. It kind of locks that into place, and then that gives me enough of a degree or enough of a ledge there that I can get my 15 degrees. So we should be pretty close. I'll just do a test. Yeah, see, we're pretty close there. So with our little shim in place, we should be ready to go. Up there. Let's go ahead and cut it. And now it's just a matter of cutting our blocks, our 4 blocks out, and we can just do that with straight cuts. And now it's just a matter of setting this up again. We'll cut out the bottom body blocks for our gliders. Again, just using our template, and it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, that takes care of our medium bottom body blocks. Now we have our small. One other thing I want to point out, when I laid my template on here and laid this out, on your mediums and your large, you have to do your end degrees. Like I said, 7.5 or 15.5, whatever, you know, it calls for, whichever horse you're making. But on small ones, whether it's on a horse that's going to be on the bows or on the glider, there is no end degree. We're just going to simply follow our lines and just cut them as a straight cut. And the way it works out, they'll fit either one. So that makes it a little bit easier when you're making the small ones. So let's go over, we'll get these cut out, and then we'll start putting legs on. Okay, so there's our third one for our smalls. Now, when I was over at the bandsaw and I was cutting, there was one little tip, I guess, that I wanted to share with you all, because I've done it numerous times, and you're going to do it too. If you've ever made these, or if you're going to make more than one of these, you're going to probably make the same mistake, and that is cutting one of these leg areas out on the wrong side or the wrong degree. And I was over there cutting, and I was thinking, this is something I wanted to share with you, and darn if I didn't do it. So, well, I'm glad I did, so now I can kind of show you. But I did, I cut this wrong. I just wasn't, again, thinking. And so the tip is, keep track of your blocks that you cut off, because if you do that and you cut it at the wrong angle, it's not that big a deal, because you've got the block. All you have to do is just put it right back into place and glue it. You don't have to put glue on the back side of the cut. We just have to glue this side, because we're going to go back in once this glue sets, and we're going to cut this all out again anyway. So, you know, we can still use this line. So it's not that big a deal, but it's just funny that I was thinking about sharing that with you, and I did it. So let me put a little bit of glue on here. Let me throw a clamp on it, and it can sit overnight, and then tomorrow I can cut that out real quick, and then we can keep moving on. I was going to say something like, you know, even I make mistakes, but I don't mind admitting I make a lot of mistakes. Just ask my wife. It happens. But like I said, it's an easy fix, and there's no reason to get irritated or, you know, upset. Throw a clamp on it, a few hours, it's dry, ready to go. There we go. With the bottom half of our horse all ready to go, let's go ahead, we'll glue the legs on here, and then tomorrow when we come into the shop, we can take everything out of the clamps and we can start making our muscle blocks and getting those put on. Not to mention tomorrow we can take the other bottom body block and run that through the bandsaw again and get that little mistake that I did. We'll get that corrected. So with the legs, I just like trimming these up this edge. This is where it's going to touch the other side of the inside of our bottom body block. I just like to clean these up on the miter saw, and then we can kind of tweak it from there. If I need to take it over to the belt sander, I can, and just take a little bit of a degree off. But with the miter saw, at least then I can get a nice square cut, and then, like I said, then we can kind of rework it. And that looks really good. I'm looking at this line right here, and, you know, squaring it up on the miter saw Sometimes you have to put a little bit of a back cut on it. This one looks really good, so we can go ahead, put a little bit of glue and clamp it. Now when I clamp it, I just like using 2.5 inch screws with 1.25 inch fender bolts. Different ways you could do this, but I like using this method. Once the glue's dry, then you can go ahead and back the screw and take the fender washer off, and reuse the washer again. Sometimes, and we'll do it here, I may put a clamp between both legs just to pull those in a little bit tighter, but at least this way with the screw and the fender washer, that gives you a pretty good clamping surface right there, at least until you can get other clamps on it. This will hold them in place. I also like to take it out of its vise and stick it up here and just see if the legs, see if we're sitting a little bit level and we've got a little bit of a rock. So then we can sort of adjust some of these legs here and see if we can get it to sit a little bit flatter. I like to do it now than waiting. So it's this leg here. So let's go ahead and take this one. We'll pop this one back off and I'm just going to trim just a little bit and we'll re-secure it. And that ought to be, that ought to get us into at least the ballpark of where we need to be. little more glue. A lot of people are asking me what kind of glue am I using, and I'm just using yellow carpenter's glue. Over here in the States we have Tite Bond. I like Tite Bond too, and that's really what I use here. All right, let's give that a shot. That's within 1/8 of an inch, and I can live with that. So that's good. We'll go ahead and set this one aside to dry. And like I said, tomorrow we can come in, make our muscle blocks for everything and start attaching those. Next up is the glider, and it's pretty much same as before. We'll just trim things up on the miter saw and, screw them down with fender washers and 2.5-inch screws. And then we'll check it and see if everything, the legs are all even, and then we can just set it aside to dry. There we go. That one looks really good too. That one will work. It's got a little bit of a wobble, but again, these legs, once we get them carved and once we get everything notched, 1/8 of an inch, you're not going to notice that at all. So that'll work for me. So again, here's another one. We'll set it aside to dry, and we'll pretty much finish up, I think, for this evening. Tomorrow, let's come in. We'll get at the clamps. We'll get the screws taken off of everything. Let's make our muscle blocks, and we'll start attaching those, and then we can also start gluing up material for the middle of our body blocks. There we go. We'll see you tomorrow. It's a new day here in the shop, and as you saw, it snowed overnight here. It's, at the beginning of the week, I knew it was getting cold, but boy, I didn't think we were going to see snow this early in the season. But it's not going to last very long, and we've got warmer temperatures coming. So I'd like to try to get a couple of these horses, at least one, completely glued up so that we can get outside and take advantage of some of the warm weather that's coming. But right now, one of the first areas I want to do and focus on, let's take the clamps off this one that I screwed up cutting. Since I still have my resaw blade set up in the bandsaw over there, let's go ahead and correct this mistake. We'll get that cut, and then we can take that blade out and switch it out for a smaller blade. Then we can start cutting legs out. We've got legs to cut out for the small horses, and I wouldn't mind, I've got 2 legs left over, and let's go ahead and cut a couple more out. We do have another medium body block, and I even have a large body block too, so I wouldn't mind. Let's just glue up let's just get a bunch of material down and see if we can't cut out a whole bunch of legs and put some more bodies together here. And I don't care if we get, you know, too far along on those, I'll just put them aside, but at least that part will be done. So let's go ahead, we'll head over to the bandsaw, let me fix this, and then we'll start cutting legs out. I pulled enough material down off my lumber rack that I should be able to get quite a few legs cut out here this afternoon. So this one here, I noticed, is about 4 3/4 inches wide. It's not going to be enough or wide enough for rear legs, but for the front legs on the bow rockers, it'll work just fine. So before I plane, I'm just going to try to position these and see how many I can get cut out, and then we'll cut everything to length, take it over to the planer, and then we'll start cutting legs out. So 36 inches, so it looks like I can get 2 legs out of a 36-inch piece. So we'll just go 6 foot, 9 foot. Okay, that ought to give us quite a few legs. That's probably more than what we need here, but again, I don't mind cutting out more. I'll just put them up on the shelf, and as we need them, then they're already cut. Okay, I don't think you need to sit there and watch me plane all this material. Again, I'm going to save you from that. I'll go ahead and get this planed, head back over to the bench, and then we can start laying out for all of our legs. Now that we've got everything planed as far as what we want to do for our small legs, I'm going to start with our thinnest boards. So again, these are 4 3/4 inches wide. So I'm going to start with those first, and we'll start laying out our leg patterns on these. And then the rest of them are about the same size, so we can just finish out everything else that we planed, and it all should work out. Once I get this all laid out, I like cutting this area on all of the legs over at the drill press. I can put a Forstner bit in there, makes a nice clean hole, and gives us a place where our bandsaw blade, you know, kind of gives us a relief cut so we don't get trapped in there. And those of you that have used bandsaws before, you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. We've got our patterns all laid out on our material. Let's head over to the drill press and let's cut out here underneath the hoof area. I've got a Forstner bit in the chuck right now. It's a 3/4 inch bit. It'll be just right for that. So we'll go over, let's start drilling these out. All right, we're all set to go. Let's start cutting some legs out. Alrighty, I think we're set to go. I've got all of my legs cut out. That took a little while, and you saw I had to put some music on. But we're all ready to go, so let's start putting some small bodies together. And this time around, I'm just going to use 1 5/8. Now, I failed to mention, I planed this material down for these small legs to 7/8 of an inch, or a heavy 7/8 of an inch. So really, 1 5/8 screws are going to work well with the fender washers, so let's get after it. Well, there we go. just wipe off some of this excess glue. We'll set these aside to dry, and then we're going to start making muscle blocks, and we'll make all the muscle blocks for these and the mediums too. The only mistake I made on these is I already have a glider up top that I've already partially, that's put together. And I was going to make 2 bows and just 1 glider, but I just was, kind of rolling with it and glued up two gliders as well. And so, but again, I'll cut out a couple more body blocks for bow rockers, and it looks like I've cut enough out for 3 bows. So, let's put together, a couple more, but I can do that off camera. I don't think you need to watch me, build a couple more of these. I think you kind of got the idea, but let's just keep moving on here. We'll get the material down and let's start cutting out muscle blocks so that those are all ready to go, so that tomorrow when we get in here, we can just, pull all of our screws and then start gluing on muscle blocks. The shop is quickly starting to fill up with the bodies, our horse bodies here, and that's exactly what I wanted to see happen. So next up, now that we have legs attached, I'm going to pull up a medium body block or a body here, and we'll go ahead, take the screws out of the legs because the glue is set now, and we can start putting our leg muscles on. So I found a piece here over on my wall there of miscellaneous pieces, and I found a perfect piece of basswood here that'll be great for the muscle blocks. It's got knots in it, so we'll be able to work around that. I went ahead and planed it down to 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to start laying these out. I'll get them cut, and like I said, we'll put one of the medium bodies up here, and we'll start putting leg muscles on. I think we'll do gliders. We'll do the glider first. So I've got my arrows here, so I know which way the grain needs to go. And I always seem to like to put them this way with my straight cut with the top of the muscle block. They seem to fit a little bit better, but there's no right or wrong way to do it. All right, I'll go cut these out on the bandsaw and be right back. Okay, there's some muscle blocks. Let me grab the horse. And now that the glue's set, it's just a matter of taking the screws out. Now with our muscle blocks, it's kind of the same as the legs. I like to trim up the area that's going to go, against the inside of our body block. I like to square those up. So we can do that again on the miter saw, touch them up on the belt sander if we need to. That's really all there is to it. A little bit of glue. I like spring clamps. I'll put spring clamps on these and set it aside to dry. Now this is where I like to use an additional clamp just to get a good clamp right across the top here, just to pull those in and keep those nice and tight. Another area I look for is the seam right here where this muscle block meets our bottom body block. I like to look in here and make sure that's nice and tight, and you got a nice glue joint there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, now that that's done, we can set this aside to dry, and we'll just keep making muscle blocks and just keep moving on. There we go. And as you can see, we're really making some progress. I don't think the camera can pick up, but I've got, our other oak rocker on the table saw over here. I've got some parts over here. There's another body here. So, I mean, we really are starting to, really make some progress this week. Really happy with that. The other thing that I did, I've been in the paint booth and I went ahead and clear coated our little horse, the little dapple gray that I've been working on. Here's our little horse that has 3 coats of clear on it. That's just going to cure here today, the rest of the day overnight, and he'll be ready to go next week to start putting together and do final assembly on. So we'll take you into the paint booth here and show you. So there's our little cherry rocker. So this has a sanding sealer on it, and then it also has 3 coats of a semi-gloss, a clear on it. So as you can see, we're really getting a lot done, and we've gotten a lot done here over the last couple of episodes here. Really happy with the progress. Next week, let's just go ahead and keep hitting it hard. Let's try to get in here and finish getting these middle body blocks glued up and get those glued down. I'd really like to try to get one of these medium horses pretty well glued up, and either it's the bow or this glider, so we can take advantage of the nice weather we're going to have here in western Pennsylvania next week. It's going to be in the upper 60s, which is fantastic. So we can get one of those done. Maybe we can get set up outside and try to get one of these horses roughed in. I'd rather keep the mess outside than, bring it in here. We'll try to get as much done as we can. We'll just keep hitting it hard. But I really appreciate you all hanging out with me here at the shop. And if you're getting something out of these videos that's helping you, love to hear from you. Put a comment down below or shoot me an email. I've been hearing from some of you out there, and these videos, have been helping you, and that really makes me happy when I hear that. Also, think about subscribing, hit that like button, hit that share button. Also hit the bell so that you're notified whenever I'm, post a new video. And that helps me out too, because I'm trying to crack that YouTube algorithm that, trying to get past that. So that would really help me out. But again, I really appreciate you all hanging out, and let's just plan on meeting back here at the shop. We'll see you then. Take care.